For those who've been to Get Shit Done events before, maybe not many, I don't recognise that many faces. It's a little exercise that I love to do because I want this to be a little community. So can I get you all to stand up, please? Okay, you need to say hi to someone you don't know. So it could be to your left, your right, behind you, in front of you. Say hi, say your name. Hopefully this will feel like a really, we're just having tea, we're just friends, all of us together. So as I said, I'm Rebecca Rowntree. I'm a creative director by day, and by night, and on the side, I do this. Get Shit Done is the platform. I started this platform in 2017, so a long time ago. I try and do it every quarter, these events. And I try and tackle a big issue, a big thing like how to break into advertising or how to have more diversity in advertising. On and on it goes. And the reason I did that is because when I was a creative in 2017, I was really fed up of just hearing my own voice complaining about these types of issues. Because let's face it, the creative industry has got a few. So I didn't have the answer to big issues, but what I could do is set up a brainstorm with the whole audience. So it's always in two parts. I sort of ask my panelists some key questions, and then anyone can put their hand up and say, I've got an issue with X, Y, and Z, and guess what? Everyone in the room try and answer it. I would love to do that today. Unfortunately, we only have 1 hour. So you'll get to have your questions, and if you've got any issues, and Sue and I will try and answer it. But it's a lot of fun. So if you fancy coming to one of those events, come and find me at the end, find me on LinkedIn, and I'll add you to the mailing list. So that's it. That's a little introduction about me and Get Shit Done. Now, can I get a big, big round of applause for the amazing Sue Higgs? About yourself and a little bit about kind of whistle stop into your career.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you, Rebecca, for having me. So yeah, my name's Sue Higgs. I had shorter hair when that photo was taken. It's now grown a bit. It's an honour to be here because I was just saying to Rebecca, once upon a time when I went to Borough College, I won a Student D&AD award and it was incredible. So it's so wonderful to see all you young, fresh faces, you know, at the beginning of your journey into the industry. So mine started a little while ago. I mean, it's probably over 30 years now, I know. I don't look old enough, but I started very young. And I went to Borough College, as was. It was a 2-year course, HND. But actually, I didn't want to be in advertising. It wasn't anything I thought. I could actually say everything I've ever done has been like a happy accident. I had done my A-levels. I took a year out because I bought a fancy Ford Capri and I needed to pay for it. And I got a job and it paid me so poorly, £3,000 a year, PA. So I was like, this is nonsense. I've got all these exams and I can't do anything. I need to be able to do something. I know I'm not an artist, but I have really creative ideas. And I literally phoned up, as was the job person, I said, this is really annoying. I'm really creative, I have these ideas, but I'm not an artist. I can't draw for toffee, I can't do anything. He went, have you thought of advertising? I went, no, what's that? He went, have a go. So, cut to me, talking my way into a course at Borough College, where I had to write one of the tests, it was a copy test, and it was to write the instructions for a box of matches, how to use a box of matches. And actually it's a really good test because you can really see how someone writes. And they seem to like my instructions. So that's where I started. It was a 2-year course. My first job, I put together a portfolio and we toured the streets of London. It probably took us about a year and a half. and we did this thing where, obviously digital, we photocopied our book 6 times, we dropped it on the receptions of all the agencies we liked. I mean, again, although it was in an analog day, you can do that digitally as well. Target the people you want to talk to and show them what you got. And then we literally sat by the phone going, who's going to pick up? And someone did. So I started an incredible agency called Low Howard Spink, as was. It's still around in a certain guise, not know. But as then, it was an incredible creative agency. I stayed there 7 years. They did a lot of work for Stella Artois, for Reebok, for what did we do? Heineken, all those kind of incredible brands. So I spent 7 years there with, I mean, I can tell you stories, probably not for this forum, but
after a drink, maybe.
After a drink, maybe. Yeah. So that was that. And then I moved on to MSC Saatchi, which was just starting out as a new young hot shop then. I don't know if anyone, they think they've done all right. But I worked on, again, some great campaigns for DA. And what else did we do? Foster's. Did a really great Foster's campaign, which gave me a chance to, one of the perks of the job is you can do a bit of travel. So we got to do a nice bit of travel. More stories, but not for now. Then I moved on to Ogilvy, where, ridiculously, I stayed 12 whole years, which is a hell of a time. But within that, you sort of stay for a reason, and each few years things kept changing, so it felt like a different agency each time. So again, learn so it's all about people, it's who you can learn from, and whilst you're still learning, you should stay. When did I go next? Publicists, a few years at Publicists, a few years at Grey, Dentsu Creative, and now I'm here. So I survived it, and during that time I've won a few awards. I've also had 3 children, so I want you to know it can be done. I'm a single mother as well. I've got 3 children of my own for the last 17 years. So you can do it. Don't let anyone tell you you can't.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking about that actually when we skipped some questions, but about how important it is to sort of say that I'm a mom too. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of women that get into advertising and kind of leave. I think we're trying to remember the percentage.
I think there's something like, the recent stat was only 11% of creative directors are women.
Yeah.
Which is obviously rubbish. And it's like, I mean, just looking at the room, it's brilliant to see women at this stage, but it's just how we can support you to have a meaningful career throughout. And so you don't drop out because, and again, it's not just on women to do that. In my department, there's obviously men and women, but you know, the men also pick up the slack. So, you know, it's a joint responsibility.
Absolutely. I think we need to delve more into
I've jumped ahead.
Yeah, you jumped ahead because I want to sort of talk about right at the beginning of when you try to get into advertising, more in terms of your own feelings. Because I think what's universal when you try and break into advertising, I think, is the fucking nerves. Sorry for swearing, but it is really nerve-wracking. It feels very lonely. It feels like it's really hard to get into. Did you feel that, and how did you overcome that?
I think for me, one of the things is if you are working in a team, that does mitigate some of it, you know, because I work with an art director, and that does help because you're not literally on your own, you know, because if you are working with a partner, at least you're sharing that same kind of feelings and all that sort of thing, and I think at that part of your career it's really useful because, you know, the more you kind of go through the ranks maybe, you're not always with a partner, and that actually changes, but I think at the start. Also, coming from a great college, I knew where my peers were, and I think it's really, really important to use your community because you've got tips and tricks you can share. I think I'm quite bloody minded, so I sort of always was under no doubt that I could do it, because at the end of the day, you're putting together a portfolio of work. It is your kind of, your collection, it's your kind of the things that you hope people are going to fall in love with, so therefore fall in love with you. So I actually saw it as quite a challenge, and quite a kind of, it was quite, and out of the people who were in my college, it was kind of like, oh, they've got a job now, right, it's my turn, so, right, okay. So we were quite competitive, I think, in ours, because, you know, if someone got a job first, you're like, oh, it's my go. So it kind of pushed us on. It wasn't in a nasty way, it was in a really positive, supportive way. It just gave you that drive to want to go next.
I'm so glad you say that, because it was the same for me and my creative partner. I mean, I think what was lucky, so anyone from UAL or LCC, put your hand up. Yeah, quite a few. That was my uni. I did design for advertising, teamed up with an amazing creative. And part of it was to do a year in industry, and that was fucking amazing, because it wasn't that kind of pressure of getting a job. It was just to do as many placements as possible. And what was great is that we were just trying to just kind of outdo each other. And we managed to get 8 different placements, 2 of which were in Paris, which was insane. And it was also that kind of drive. So I remember that, but I really want to sort of talk about the emotional stuff, because even though I had that drive, I'm like, we need to nail it. I remember being so bloody shaky and frightened when I was doing the interviews. You wouldn't believe. I was just so nerve-wracking. It was just...
I think it's always, when you're showing something what you kind of think is brilliant, there's always a level of, I like it, because you know, and there were some awful people I spoke to, be honest. There were, I mean, it was quite, you know, luckily not everybody, there was a lot of support from people you spoke to, but some people were really quite awful, and so you have to employ a little bit of resilience and a bit of a thick skin, and also think, well, I don't want to work for you anyway, so stuff.
Exactly.
No, so, you know, like, whatever, if that's how you're going to be to me now, then I'm not going to work with you. So actually, it's quite an interesting process, because as you're schlepping your book around or you're showing different people reveal themselves, and it's actually all very much part of, it's all information and it's all data, because you kind of like, you get a vibe of the kind of people you want to work with. Because remember, when you work for someone, it's not one way, it's a two-way thing.
Yeah.
You have to like them, and they have to like you, obviously, but it has to be that kind of contract. It's not just a one-way. Never work for someone who makes you feel less than, or someone who doesn't, you know, when you show your ideas, you probably know this by now, some people like them, some people don't. But it's not enough to say, I don't like that. Whenever I speak with students, I kind of get them to explain, because maybe there's something I haven't understood. Maybe it's just like there's something there and I haven't quite seen it. So by having an open conversation, you can drill into exactly what it is at the heart of the idea.
Yeah.
And then we can kind of nudge it together, and that's how you should work, is in a collaborative, open manner. Someone that doesn't do that, don't work for them, because they're going to shut you down, and that's going to be not a kind of great way to help you along the way, because at this point, you're just, I mean, we're all just, I'm still learning. We never stop learning, and that's the great thing about the creative industries is you learn something new every day. You know, I will learn from you the same way as you will learn from me, because, you know, it's all an information exchange.
No, exactly. And I feel, I don't know, I feel like in our days it was a lot harsher as well. I feel like a lot of the time now, HR is kind of saying, hey, don't speak like that as much. But I would say sort of 70% of the time it was quite harsh. And I mean, I remember ECD said to me, it's a medium, not the message. And I was like, what the hell are you on about? That is not feedback.
Yeah.
So it was just, it was quite harsh, but then the good ones you just held on to.
Yeah, I mean, even worse, I mean, I'm talking pre-Me Too and all that, like when literally, I mean, this is not a lie, you get a crate, just go, shit,
Yes.
shit, I heard that, yeah, shit, and then that would be it. Actually, I remember one of my first placements I ever did was at a place called CDP back in the day. We had a week to do a radio campaign, and we were all nervous, we sort of wrote these radio ads, and then we got to see the creative director on the Friday, and we were ready to go, printed off, and we sort of went, oh, you know, we've got the radio. He went, wireless? I don't do wireless. And that was that. It never showed the work. Anyway, but again, you have to use these people to push against and go, well, stuff you.
Yeah.
I'll go and do that. Don't let them get in your head. Don't let them get under your skin, because they're just, you know, you're always going to meet something like that. But you just have to, you know, use your own drive to not let those people put you off your course.
Yeah, exactly. And I think having a tougher skin, and that for me really brought me. And it's funny, I would say across the years, and I don't know if it was the same for you, that it would take me a lot longer to recover from these very harsh critics. And then the older I got and the more I did it, the quicker I would sort of get back on my feet. And I didn't have a choice, I needed to get the job, so.
And I think also, make sure, if someone says something you're not sure about, question them, call them up.
Yes.
So say, when you said da-da-da, could you explain a bit more about that? I'd like to understand a bit more than that. because it's not enough to just say that's shit or no, because what does that even, how can you learn from this? So you can say, could you explain a little bit more? So make sure if, you know, it's something that is kind of like not useful, interrogate it. You know, be curious about it, because there might be a learning in there. They might also just be not a very nice human, but equally, there could be a learning with it.
Yeah, exactly. Or sometimes, and I think that's really key, is that sometimes they can be so busy, they have a really, because as much as some of them give it out, they also get it from the clients. Some clients out there are really brutal. So they probably have a client in their head going, we need to finish that campaign, we need to do this, blah, blah, blah. And they're looking at a book and maybe their head is not with it. I mean, I don't think that's right. You need to just be fully on it, but just bear that in mind. One thing I wanted to ask you is, obviously it's one thing having the meeting with a creative director or an executive creative director, but how do you get the meeting in the first place? How do you stand out? I'm sure a lot of you probably think that.
Yeah,
so I have questions.
It is tough. It is tough, and I think it's actually tougher in a weird way with the digital bit, because you're an email, and you know, when you're a physical thing, you can see you know, and you can ignore an email. But when your office is full of portfolios, you can actually go, I think most agencies will have like somebody who is kind of entrusted to look after the placements, right, or nurture young talent. I mean, at Dentsu we have a relationship with the SCA, but equally we're open to other students as well. It's not solely that, and there is a team involved who will look at everything. And if they think there's something that stands out, then we'll go through the system. And I know it sounds as ridiculous as it sounds, fundamentally, all anyone's looking for is an idea that cuts through. Yeah, I mean, it's as easy and as simple as that, all in one go. The ideas that live rent-free in your head are the ones that stick with you and you kind of start talking to. So as much as you can, I mean, be audacious. There's a thing about your book, which is you've got to be realistic, but at the same time be crazy at the same time. My thinking about creativity is it has to be based in some logic. It can't start from a place that doesn't make sense. But how you express that can be as crazy as possible. And when I start seeing that kind of thinking that's kind of got that logic in it as a basis, but yet it's being taken in such an incredible direction, even if it's not perfect, because your book is at the moment isn't supposed to be perfect. What your book is supposed to be right now is something that someone can pick up and say, I love the way you're thinking, and what you're demonstrating is the way that you're thinking, which is different to other people. And that is what will make you stand out, and that's what people are looking for in your work.
I think I love that, because I think I was so hard with my creative partner, but so hard on ourselves, and we just thought we needed everything to be absolutely perfect, and actually, no one is that. Even senior creatives and creative directors, no one is perfect. It's impossible, especially nowadays, where there's just so much to think about in terms of medium and outputs, etc. You know, it's just too much.
And also, even when you're in the job, no one works alone. You work with other creatives might chip in. You have like film directors who might chip in. You have, you know, animated. It's a build. It starts in a place where everyone's quite happy, but then you have a lot of influences all along the way. So as long as everyone's on board with the first bit. As I was walking through here, I was so excited to see someone using a layout pad and an N50. So excited, because I was told, and I know again this was different days, because everyone used to do everything with magic markers. You know, used to kind of like incorporate, shade everything in and make it all like. And I was told, don't get too hung up. If you do something that's perfect, spend days sort of like crafting something in some ways. And the thing is that you go, oh, you're kind of in love with this thing. So the looser you can make it, the more fluid. So actually, by the end of it, the job that got me the book that got me a job was just in black and white, because you can see through it. I mean, it's the older Dutch, you know, like song lyrics by John Lennon on the back of the record, but it's not laid out beautifully, but everyone can see the beauty beyond the kind of aesthetic.
No, I love that. In fact, it reminds me of a creator not so long ago wrote a script just using voice memo. Yeah, it was a song. Yeah, it was just perfect. So you don't have to have it perfect. One thing I want to share actually is an anecdote of how me and my creative partner managed to get these 8 placements. It was when I feel digital was really sort of kicking off, and we knew that it wasn't just about the book that needed to be good, it was about that kind of first email that really will stand out. So we created www.wewantplacements.com, and we said in our email, I can't remember, really like 2 lines, hardly anything, we would like www.wewantplacements.com. And Dave Trott, who had his agency at the time, gave us the job, the placement straight away without even looking at the book, and said, you just nailed that medium within seconds, and we're just so proud.
Yeah, we had a team who created a fake campaign email, and it was just quite funny, and I just like the way they wrote. You know, there's just sometimes it's the bit you don't know, and I mean, I quite like someone that's a bit funny as well, someone that doesn't take it too seriously and just plays a bit. Just to show that playful side is really useful when you can see how someone's brain works as well.
Yeah, it's a personality. It's less about having 10 different campaigns. If anything, 3 really funny, great campaigns is more than enough.
Again, I think less is always more, because, you know, if you have too much in your book and some of it's a bit not sure, don't just do it for quantity, do it for quality, because otherwise you can be seen to not actually have much judgment around your work, because what it can say is, I'm not quite sure what good is. It's better to present 6 good than 8. Yeah, some of it's okay, and then kind of justify it. So be really laser focused about what you would stand by.
And also knowing your audience. One of the reasons we just did that website is we knew that if you look at an email that has shitloads of copy, you don't want to read it, especially if you're really busy. So just going straight to the point was key. On that, what are the values you look for in sort of young creators who want to sort of break into advertising? So you kind of covered a little bit of it, but
I just like really nice humans. I know that sounds, all the things I'm going to say are going to sound so simple, but they're so hard. Like, also I think there's a whole cult at the moment about people who are looking for titles and people who just want to go, but honestly, just focus on the work. Don't worry about the titles will come, the glory will come if you just focus on the work. Whereas I hear, you know, people, we want this, and it's like, well, what do you mean you want that? I don't understand. Because I can tell you everything that I've ever been promoted through or I've gone through has been because of the work. Let the work lead and the rest will follow. But people who do it the other way around slightly concern me because they're playing a game of politics. I'm not saying any of you would do that, obviously, but that does happen. So I think just be focused on the work and just be a decent human being. People, it can be quite brutal business, and there are certain personality types that are drawn to it because of the creative industries does. But don't forget, it's actually okay to be a nice human, and actually that's a strength, not a weakness. And I think a lot of people perceive that not to be, but it is. So just show up as yourself in all your glory, whoever you are. Don't hide it. Don't hide any of yourself. As someone once said, don't dim to fit in, just be you. I love personalities. I love people who be who I can't be because I can learn from you. So just show up as your true, authentic self. I know that might sound like a terrible kind of
this is
meme, but actually that it's like, if I don't want 5 teams who can all do the same thing, because I mean, to pull a terrible football analogy, of which I may go wrong because I'm not a football person, but you know, when you're on the pitch, you don't need 5 strikers and 5 goalies. You need people in their position, so I know how to play you in, like, oh, we're having this kind of thing. You'd be brilliant for that. I know your strengths, and I can grow and help you and push you in that way. So I can only do that if you show me who you are. Yeah. So if you can show up as yourself and really play into those strengths, then you will get the work that suits you, and you will grow that way.
I think it's such an important point. In fact, we talked about this yesterday. I want to delve more into it because you guys, I don't know how many of you have started working in advertising or at agencies, but as you sort of rightly pointed out, there are some really lovely, amazing people, and there are some, because as you said, it attracts, we were talking about the no arseholes policies. Unfortunately, it's not just in advertising, the clients can be like that, and I kind of want to warn you about that. Do not become like them, okay? Do not become an arsehole. We want them out. We want them out.
But that's one of my policies. I mean, I've got quite a good filter now, so I can smell them a mile off. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's also, there is a game at play, as in anything, there's a game, and you have to play it a little bit, because otherwise you can't be a team player. But you'll notice, you'll notice the people that go too far and are doing the wrong things, and it is seen. And I think there's a perception that if I'm seen to do that, then it will mean that it doesn't. Just literally be true to you, just do your thing, just really, just be authentic, do the work that you love, be enthusiastic, and you know, you will meet. In any industry, and we're not just demonising that. There's dickheads everywhere, unfortunately. Yeah. But you know, like I say, just when our industry is created out of soft opinions as well. There's no real facts in it. You know, you're at the behest of your man. I read this fact yesterday. This thing yesterday. It was quite fascinating. It said that your manager has a bigger effect on your health than a doctor.
Wow, I can imagine that.
That's quite crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Work for somebody who has got your best interests at heart.
Yeah.
And if they haven't, don't. That's simple.
And trust your gut. You know, we talked about the kind of the first interview. If they kind of review your portfolio and they're not very nice, that kind of gives you an indication of how they're going to be for the rest of the time. And one thing I wanted to touch on what you said, which is being true to yourself. I think that's so key. I remember feeling I'm a sensitive human being, I'm emotional, I've got empathy, and do you know what, for a long time, I wanted to sort of hide that because I felt that that's not what you get in advertising. In advertising, you have confident, you know, strong, you know, no emotions, and actually, don't do that. In fact, it is because I'm empathetic, it is because I'm emotional that I create better campaigns. So it's really key to not hide that. The other thing is, we were talking about this earlier, I'm doing a bit of an emoji of how I am, and I think I might have a bit of ADHD. I think a lot of creatives do have that. So again, something that you don't, you know, look into yourself, look at your strengths and your weaknesses and sort of celebrate them and be who you are. I think it's really key.
Bring it all. Introverts, extroverts.
Exactly.
Anything. It all works. Because we're all in this together. I also believe that you shouldn't, you know, none of us, we're all as good as each other. You know, just some of us are a bit further down the road and we can all learn from each other if we're decent human beings.
Exactly.
Basically.
Exactly.
I had something I was going to say then.
About being who you are.
Yeah, I can't remember what it is. It'll come back to me. It always does.
So we've got about 5 minutes, and then I really want you guys to sort of have some, you know, be able to say some of your questions. What I want to touch on is we talked about the beginning. I think it's really key to sort of give a bit of an overview of what it's like, sort of middle, and you know, going all the way to ECD. Because what's it like just working in that environment? And also, I'd love to sort of give the kind of stresses that sort of an insight of what it's like to sort of work on big campaigns with clients, sort of there just always
a lot of client wrangling. I mean, I think the person you see here today is not that dissimilar to the person you would have met when I first started, and I think that's really important. That's why I'm very key on being yourself all the way through, because the further you move from your North Star, the more difficult it gets. That gap you get, if you're pretending to be something you're not, that's when things get difficult. So just be you, and trust, using your gut as your guide is also the most important thing through, because there will be people, there will be distractors, there'll be people that are jealous of you. Not that I expect you have done, but I had a horrendous bullying incident when I worked at Ogilvy, and which I wrote extensively about, and was really surprised to see how many other people had had
and in
too.
fact, I think you should maybe sort of talk a little bit about it, or if you want to have a look, it's in Campaign. It's
in
really
Campaign.
Key.
It's actually been used to teach educatively now as well, which I'm really proud of, because it's really, really, I mean, I think, but the lesson out of that is find your tribe. Find the people you feel safe. Never suffer alone. Find your tribe. It's really important. So, you know, you hopefully will have a creative partner, but equally talk to people. Never suffer in silence. If there is anything, because honestly, it's the most wonderful. I wouldn't be sat here now if I didn't love what I do. Every day I get out of bed and I get to, no 2 days are the same. I've been around the world. I've worked with some incredible directors. I've worked with some incredible humans. And so the positives are there for you. It's just, I think we're just very cognizant that the bits that try and knock you off that path, you mustn't let you, because the spoils are incredible. I think, like I say, you know, there's lots of lovely young women here at this point. Not all of you want children. Some of you may not. It doesn't matter. But we do seem to see a big dropout around that time. I've got 3 children, like I said, and probably at a time when it was not fashionable to have children. I was the only woman in the creative department, but I did it in spite of people. Because life is, too short to just put advertising ahead of it. So you have to run your race at your pace you need to do at that time. So if that's what you want to do and become a mother, you walk a little bit. That's fine, because it'll all be there. And then you pick it up when you're ready. And again, it's a responsibility of the males of the department to help as well. We're all in this together. So it's tough, but it's also really rewarding, especially when you get someone to know your own opinion and to be able to argue, to speak to that in a way that can persuade someone that what you're doing is right is the most rewarding thing in the world, because that's how you get great work through. Is just never always use your voice. Never don't be quiet or suffer in silence, or be afraid to ask the questions about things. My department, I always say, is there's no such thing as a stupid question. There's just questions. They're never stupid. As a creative, you have to be curious. So if you are curious, ask. You'll never be vilified for that. And again, if you work in a department that is, don't do it.
Yeah. And you touch on having children, and I think we should sort of explore that a bit more. One thing I wanted to say is, unfortunately, at a very young age, I already started to think, what would it be like in sort of 10 years' time when I would think about having kids, which is not something you want to think about. But I was very acutely aware of how difficult it might be, because I knew it'd be long hours, crazy deadlines, etc. So, and also, I should say I grew up in France. In France, they tell you from the age of 10, you need to choose your career. So it was always in my mind. And it's true that it was a stress. I shouldn't be stressed at 23 thinking about that. But I want to let you know that it is completely possible. I've had 2 children. If anything, I was like, I couldn't wait to get back after a year of maternity leave. And everyone's like, oh, you need things quiet. No. I'm ambitious. I want to do this. So it's definitely doable. And also, we become extremely good at juggling the work, don't we, once we've had kids. And same with dads, by the way. I know we talk about women a lot, but I've seen a lot of dads who are very good. They leave at 4:30, they go and pick up the kids, and then they might work again later, but it's all doable.
And I think the flexi working of post-pandemic has also really helped.
Oh, gosh,
But also, back to my belligerence, I do it in spite of, I actually said to my boss, and I believe this in my department, you can do the work when you choose to do your work. And if I fuck up, fire me. But if I don't, let me do my work. And that's how, I don't care if people work at midnight, 3 in the morning, whenever you want to work. As long as you're doing the work and you're delivering the work, it doesn't matter. And that applies to everybody.
Exactly.
Not just mothers, but everybody. It's not a 9-to-5 job. Inspiration strikes most irritatingly when you least expect it. Probably as you're just about to go to sleep. And you try and write it
Always
down.
at night for me.
Yeah, always then. And you wake up and go, oh, no, that was rubbish. Or, hey, I'm a genius. But it's a 20. You can't help how your brain works. And I think people have this bias against people that that's going to stop when you have to, and it's a bias that needs to be removed, because actually, I mean, you get better, I think, as a mother because you understand, and also you understand the audience. Like at the end of the day, we're here to have insights around our audience and our consumers and how they're thinking, and you're bringing another incredible superpower to the table, which is you understand the audience. So it's all...
Which the clients craves, absolutely 100%. Craves. They know how much mothers and parents, I should say, have a huge impact on their brand. Yeah. I'm aware of the time, so I've got one last question for you, which is a toughie.
Oh, God.
But I'm aware that these guys will start their own journey in their career, and I would love to get in your head what you would like to see in the next 10 years. In an ideal world, what could we see in the advertising industry?
That's tricky, isn't it? You know what? I think we're doing some good work right now, and I'd love not to be having these conversations because they're not a thing anymore.
I agree. Yeah.
I would love it for that all the kind of nepotism has kind of gone away. I'd love for the arts to be supported more, so it's not just people who are being supported through. I'd love to see everybody welcome and it not be a thing. I'd love to see values put back at the heart, which is just kindness, hard work, creativity, and it not just be a tick box exercise around DEI. I'd like everybody to be welcome. I mean, the best departments work when they're flat, when there's none of that kind of hierarchy kind of stuff in them. We're just all galvanised, making some great work. I think.
Yeah, diverse minds.
Yeah, diverse
top
minds.
To bottom.
Everyone welcome as well.
Yeah.
And it not to be tick box.
Yeah.
I think would make and all this kind of. If the patriarchy could get smashed, I'd quite like that as well. If that
me
could
too.
get
Can we achieve that together? Yes.
Yeah. If you could help me with that, I'd be ever so grateful.
Yeah, we would be, definitely. Right, on that note, can I get a big round of applause for Sue? That was amazing. I'm sure we've not covered everything. I had about 100 questions that we didn't even go through, but I just want to make sure that you get a bit of time to ask your questions, because I'm sure you've got some. Now, I want to tell you something that I made myself do, and I'm very mean to myself because it doesn't look like it, but I can get really nervous. And every time I went to an advertising talk, I would make myself put my hand up, even if sometimes I didn't even have a question, because I knew it would be incredibly valuable. So can I ask that you try and do that today? Let's start with the Q&A. I don't know what we do in terms of, Mary's got a microphone over there. So any questions?
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy,
No such thing as a stupid question. Yay.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. You both were incredibly inspirational. I just have one question, which is there something you look for in an idea, whether it's humor or craft or an insight? What's something that makes it stand out?
I look for something that is true and connects to me. I mean, and it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be polished. It doesn't have to be finite. It could just be a couple of. Do you know what still lives rent-free in my head? Which is like, this is probably from years ago. There was a team that did a campaign for Jacob's Crackers. You know, cream crackers, and their end line was Jacob's Crackers. He is, you know. That literally, and it was just about this little mad character that ran around. But it was just that really interesting use of words, or that very unusual, something that wasn't anything I've seen. So it's be original, they say, but you know what I mean. But something that where you've added a bit of your personality into something, and it was just a line, but it was really intriguing because I hadn't seen. You know, that kind of thing. So that sort of, and it might just be a visual, it might just be a line, it might be a design, it might be some kind of a logo, whatever, but you just see that spark, that kind of something where you've put you into something, and you would kind of go, yeah, that's a little bit of me, and you can see the authenticity in that, and that shines. When it's almost... You know, the Zen thing, when someone's tried to do an ad, you see the trying, not the creative. That's right. So when you just see the creative, I think it shines.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the craft, I've got plenty of people who can do that. That's not my issue. I want to see someone who's just had a really fucking brilliant idea. And I think insight, a really good knowledge of strategy. I was very lucky when I first started that I worked with some of the best strategists, and that was kind of my superpower. And then the other superpower that I would think is really great is there's a lot of people in advertising and agencies who don't know every single medium, especially social, especially new sort of platforms. Be that person that they go, oh, brilliant, I've got this person that knows everything about AI or whatever. Alicia, who's just there, who I'm pointing out, I got her a job as a producer at Grey, and one of the things I said is you needed, I can't remember the social platform, but it sort of burnt, like it sort of went really big, and then it didn't really go anywhere. But she just put in her CV that she's an expert in that, became an expert in 2 days, and she got the job. You know, like those little things are really key. Right, any other question? Yes?
Do you have any advice for someone that didn't necessarily study advertising and like how that would impact your portfolio?
Oh my goodness, that's brilliant. I love that. I think that's a great question. In fact, there's a team I just hired and they taught themselves. And I think one of them was like a biochemist and one of them was a TV presenter in Romania. And they're brilliant because what you're bringing is your life and your experience. Obviously, you're as good as your ideas. As long as you're bringing ideas, it doesn't matter what you mean. Obviously, colleges are utterly brilliant because they can help you formulate that and show you that. But you can equally do that. You can self-teach. These things are quite good to look at sometimes. Have a little look through them.
That's so true.
They're absolutely, you can self-teach that. So sometimes it's actually quite interesting to look at people who haven't been to, because you get a different kind of style of thinking. So it's not a negative at all if you haven't been to college. It's the same way. It's the strength of your ideas, and you can bring that from any point of view. So yeah.
And that's really true. Weirdly, I had a real chip on my shoulders. Even though I went to LCC to do design for advertising, I felt like I hadn't been formally trained, which is really ridiculous now that I look back. And it lasted with me for bloody ages, and that was not great, actually. It's just all about doing the work and the campaigns, doing as many as possible, and you're just as good as an expert as everyone else. You'll find out that a lot of really top people, CCOs, ECDs, have not got the traditional, background, and they're doing really well. So.
And there is a little bit of that 10,000 hour thing. The more you do it, the more you do it. And it's really important, and you can't shortcut that. And anyone can do 10,000 hours, you know what I mean? And that's how you learn, and that's how you get better. And it's by doing it, you do it, and by doing it, you do it. And it's like, gets easier the more, easier, she says. It gets, you learn shortcuts, but, you can't shortcut the time, which I think goes back to my thing about people who, I've been doing my job for 6 months. Can I be a midweight? You're like, why?
No.
Why would you also do that to yourself?
Oh, absolutely.
Because you'll be put into a place where you won't understand where you are because you won't have learnt those things. So it's just by doing it.
Yeah. I saw a few hands goes up. Yes.
Oh, lots of hands.
Loads of hands. Well done.
Hi. So I study advertising at LCC, funny enough.
Brilliant.
And, I'm going into my final year, and I've been quite disillusioned with the course because I felt like it hasn't really prepared me for a career in advertising. So
it hasn't changed then.
Hmm?
It hasn't changed then.
Yeah. What kind of advice would you have for someone in my position?
Do you know what? When I left do you work on your own?
Yes.
Okay, why don't you try see if you can hook up with a partner? That's first, because again, you will the chances are at your level you will be hired as a team. People do get
hired as singles.
Yeah. But the chances are at your level you will be hired as a team. So make friends. There's probably someone in this room. And when I left Hounslow Borough College, HND. I understand why you're feeling like you're feeling, because you're kind of like because it's sort of almost you're quite cosseted, and then suddenly there's this kind of big gap between where you're kind of going. At the time, actually, D&AD did this brilliant thing where you could do this course, and you went into 6 agencies in 6 weeks, and they set you different briefs, and that was really useful at the time because you made connections, and I didn't have a partner, and I found a partner. So I think finding a partner would be where you are, but also never be afraid, because you'll have learned more than you know. But you might just need to redeploy it in a different way. So everything you've learned, you might go, look, the book that got me my job eventually, or my placement that got me my job, had nothing to do with the work that I'd done before, but I'd learned the basics. So don't be afraid to keep reinventing it. Don't be afraid to sort of apply what you know, but make yourself some other briefs. Start talking to, these people exist in agencies that will support you, and you can go in and out, especially the juniors who've just started who know it is, because it's weird. Bear with me, my analogy, but the curling, you get the people with the brush. We're all just sweeping the way for everyone to come through. Yeah. So at every level, the juniors are sweeping for the placements, and the midweights are sweeping. We all just want everyone to shine, mostly, apart from the arseholes. And So there's a lot of help out there and a lot of resources out there. And don't feel disillusioned. Make that your superpower. Push against that and use that energy to do something great, because you can do that. And you'll know loads and loads of things. I would find a partner, though, because on two heads at this stage of the game is so much easier to get yourself. And also then, you're having a down day, they pull you, you're there having a down day. It just makes life that little bit easier at this stage. And yeah, don't let them live in your head. You can do this.
Yeah. But even if you were a single creative, I was a single creative, my creative partner said, I can't deal with this advertising world, so she left after 5 years of us being together or something like that. I was a single creator, absolutely loved it, still love it to some extent because I'm a creative director. So it is completely possible, it's up to you. One thing I would say is don't wait until you finish your degree. I know it's fucking stressful last year. Just every month, make yourself send emails. Because you could just say, just give me a brief via email, or could I have a placement in July of next year, or anything. But just, it takes time to get in there. So don't wait until you finish your degree. I think we've got time for one last question, just because there is something special that I want to do at the end. You'll see it all make sense. Or there's 2 questions. Oh, 3.
We can talk if you want to come. If
you decide, because
if you don't ask your question here now, you can probably talk to us at the end. We'll be here for a little bit, won't we?
Yes, absolutely.
We're not going to run away quite yet.
Hello, thank you so much for sharing some of your advice. As someone also going into their last year, I always hear that it's really important and critical to maintain relationships with people and network. How would you say, as someone who's been on your side and probably has a lot of students, people reaching out to you through LinkedIn, to maintain and possibly spark mentorship type relationships without it feeling like you're just kissing ass, essentially,
That's a good one, actually. So it's true. I have about 5 LinkedIn email that I feel extremely guilty about because I say, yeah, I'll have time. Sometimes it's just a question of literally finding time. And what I try and do every month is just find that half an hour, 45 minutes, so I can have a kind of mentor one-to-one, and I try and do it. I think just being really human, not overly do it, short email, straight to the point, would really value. And then something about them, make sure that you're not just doing that copy and paste. We fucking hate that, as there's a lot of creative directors that get the same sort of emails, and we know. So just make sure that this is directed to that person. And why? Why do you need that sort of mentorship? Exactly. Because sometimes, yes, you want a job out of it, but actually mentors are really key. I actually don't really love that term, because I've had some really shit mentors, people who just do it for the sake of it. I think just having a nice conversation, just to have some help, just being down to earth, not overly complicated and not overly overthinking it is key.
I would also say, don't have that language of kiss ass. Say hustle.
Yeah.
You're hustling. Don't give yourself that negative thing, because otherwise, if you think I don't want to kiss ass, then you'll be like, that's just all that's in your head. So you're hustling. You have to do that, because it's a positive that you're showing keen and eagerness, and this is what you want. It's drive. So don't let that negative, because that's kiss ass feels negative. Just do the positive spin on that. So because you have to make these connections, and unfortunately it's probably a bit of a numbers game as well. You're probably you'll reach out to 20 and 3 will get back, and that's always been like this. And just know that, and just be. It's the hustle. And anybody in creative knows it's the hustle. We've all been there. We've all, sweat for someone so they can come through, sweat for someone so they can come through. So it's just play the long game and just know that's what it is, and don't kind of think of it as anything else. It's just
that's so true.
Hustle.
The hustle is we have to do hustling with clients, really, with other things. So it's always going to be part of it, and just be okay with it. And it's not really kiss ass to say, hey, that work that you did, I fucking loved it because of X, Y, and Z. It's not kiss ass. It's just the truth. So yeah, right. It's coming to the end. I had done the whole deck, which I didn't even go through. Oops. This is a bit of a random image, right? I'm going to stand up for this. So earlier, you stood up, didn't you? You said hi to a stranger, and there's a reason for that. So one of the key things I like to do with my Get Shit Done events is I can't help every single one of you, as much as I'd love to, because it would take me a whole year. However, you can all help each other. We were talking about that. A community is really key, especially at the beginning of your career. Anyone here can help you. You could promote each other's portfolio. You could say, hey, I managed to get a gig there. There's another space. Can you help me? Is anyone interested? So connecting with one another is really key. So we're going to do that in the spirit of getting shit done. I'm going to take a little Oscar selfie of all of you in a second. What I want you to do after this, maybe in an hour's time when I have a bit more time, is I'll post it on LinkedIn. I want you to comment on it, say, I was here, and then connect with one another. Sue and I will also be there. We'll try and help as much as possible, but the key thing is that you connect with all of you because you're all here. You can help each other and hopefully get shit done. So shall we do it? Can I get everyone to stand up, please? Thank you so much. Thank you to D&AD New Blood. Thank you to Sue. And hopefully see you soon. Thank you.